Okay, hello everyone. My name is G.R. Reddy. Today we are going to talk about the employer's obligation and the legal framework, which is very important during these times of COVID, because every employer is going through certain challenges. And today I have with me one of the best, lawyer and who is an authority on this subject, Radhakrishna Garu, and he is a lawyer and also advises a lot of companies, large MNC companies, on the employment related issues. And today we are very fortunate to have him. Sir, welcome, sir. Thank you for your time. We are very blessed to have you on this because I think most of the business owners today are in tense mode. And I'm sure your inputs today, I have lots of questions, that we received. Today, our meeting is going to really help many of them in many ways. So I would like to welcome you, and we all from HUSIS and also all the business owners perspective, we would like to thank you for joining this event.
You're welcome.
Yeah. Sir, first question, I have, that government has released an advisory. So I would like to have your comments on how this advisory is effective, or how is it obligated towards the employers in the country, sir?
Advisory as regards the payment of wages during the lockdown period is one of the important issues.
Yeah.
That is not only advisory, and it is also mandatory to implement, because it is an order of the government issued by virtue of the powers conferred on the government under the Disaster Management Act and as well as the Epidemics Act. So it has to be implemented. As regards the payment of wages, only for the month of March, Government of Telangana and the other governments gave clarity. As regards the wages for the month of April, the clarity had to come. The orders are yet to be issued. Only the lockdown is declared. Another thing is that from 20th onwards, 20th of April onward, as per the revised guidelines of the central government, there are certain relaxations given for running of the manufacturing units and as well as the operations by maintaining the social distance. We'll have to wait and see as regards the liability of payment of wages for the month of April.
Okay, sir. Thank you so much, sir. And sir, there are certain companies which are exempted, right? In this case, if the employees are not really coming, because we have noticed in some cases of retail stores or something where some of the employees didn't want to come for the work. So what will happen in such cases, sir?
Yes, where the manufacturing unit or essential services or offices or whatever it is, wherever the employer kept open his office and the employees were asked to come and work, if they fail to turn up for work, they should be treated as absence from the duty, unauthorized absence from the duty. They are not entitled for the payment. Besides the same, they are also liable for disciplinary action.
Okay. Thank you, sir. Sir, I think your video, so now I can actually see. Just to clarify to all the viewers, I will be taking segment by segment just to make sure that we are in an order. So first, I'm going to talk about more on the government advisory. Then I will be focusing on reduction of pay or salary, what kind of implication and what the role of employers and what the obligations of employer. And also the next, we will talk about the layoff and terminations related issues. One more important aspect other than that is also the leave adjustments, which are important, and any compliance related issues. So I will actually go into this order. So, sir, the next question that I have is, now that, we have seen, this is maybe a controversial, right? Government, governments are already provided some kind of a reduction in the salary for the government employees, right? So how do you see that this is affecting the normal employers and the businesses, sir?
No, the government as such did not reduce the salaries. Only they said that the 50% of the wages would be paid, and the remaining 50% of the wages deferred the payment. And the reduction is different from that of the deferment. And the government deferred for certain period owing to the financial problems. And owing to that. And as regards when it comes to the private sector, especially be it a manufacturing or a service sector or a ITES, the salaries cannot be reduced unilaterally by the employer. And if the employer wants to reduce the wages, he has to seek consent from the employee. And if the employer and employee accepts, both arrive at a consensus, then it is a contract. And then, however,
Yes, sir.
the reduced salary should not be less than the minimum wage, less than the minimum.
Okay, so I think that what it's going to say is that the minimum wages are supposed to be paid to the fullest extent, to whatever they, I
Yes,
mean,
yes,
as per
yes,
your
yes.
understanding. Sir, you know that there is a lot of struggle in terms of understanding what are the rights of employees and the employers. Would you be able to just throw some light on what are the rights of an employer and what are the rights of an employee in this situation? Especially because now
Yeah.
everything is in a challenge situation.
Yes, yes. In the present situation, the employer also is having lot many problems. Generally, the perception of the general public or the thing is that the employer can afford. It is not that the employer can afford anything. Employer also is having his own financial constraints because the wearer knows where the shoe pinches.
Yeah.
Employer do have the financial constraints like that of the employees. Now, the challenges that are going to be faced by the employer is lack of project, lack of order, or perhaps lack of working capital to run the organization
Company.
because
Yeah.
the payments that are to be received because of the financial impact may get affected and they may not be able to receive the payments on time. There will be a problem in the cash flow or the funds flow or so on and so forth, which results employer is not able to meet the overheads, and it is the time for the employer to reduce the overheads and follow the austerity measures.
Yeah.
The austerity measures, including is the cost cutting, and one such is that even a reduction of salary or laying off the employees or downsizing the workforce, taking out the excess fat, and so on and so forth. These would be, and these are the aspects normally that affects the employees.
Yeah.
Another thing is that basically, one is the legal, illegal, legal aspect. The other one is the human aspect.
Sure.
Like there are difficulties for the employer, employee do have the difficulties. Good and bad is equally applicable on both these
So
sides.
both. Yeah, that's
Both
right.
these sides. And we also have to be a bit generous without affecting the survival of the organization. Generous need not be, which
Yeah.
is put the organization itself at stake.
Yeah, because I think it's really happening that if the organization doesn't survive, where is the question of the rights and that way. So it's a mutual.
It is the standard principle that the job of the employee exists only when the organization exists.
Exists.
When the
Absolutely.
organization
Absolutely.
itself
Absolutely.
doesn't
Sure, sir.
exist.
Sir,
And
also now this work from home.
Yes.
Yeah.
And Mr. GR, before that, what I mean to say is that the reduction of salary is also bit to be discussed about.
Oh yeah, we will do that. We will. I think I have
Yes.
lots of queries, and different points
Another
that
thing,
there are questions.
Work from home is permissible, and now the study goes that in certain cases the work from home is giving more productivity than the work at the office. And
Yeah.
employer also, certain of the employees also feeling happy because of the traffic that they have to commute every day for a couple of hours and going back and other thing. And as far as the work from home is concerned, if the employer asks any employee to work from home and the employer doesn't work, he is not entitled for the wages. Those who work, they are entitled for the wages.
Okay. Sir, the other question that I have is, the basic understanding right now, because the IT industries, most of their feeling is that the software engineers or anyone doesn't come under the workman. So I would like you to clarify on what is a workman, and also how is it different, impacting the ITITS industry? How do we define this? I think this definition is very, very important for everybody, sir.
Actually, mostly the ITITS industries are having a feeling that they are not covered under the Industry Dispute Act. The employees are working with them are not workmen is only myth. It's not the reality. As per law, every organization, there are the employees who fall under the definition of workmen and who are come outside the scope of definition of work. Then broadly to explain, who is a workman, who is a non-workman? The non-workman means the employees employed in supervisory and managerial position. The one who got supervisory functions like recommendation of leave, sanction of leave, and appraisal, performance appraisal, recommendation of increment, sanction of increment, so on and so forth, appointment, taking interviews and selecting the candidates, and taking disciplinary action. These are all the managerial and supervisory functions. If any employee discharging these functions or any of these functions, they are excluded from the definition of workmen, like supervising and testament of. Who is not doing these functions, discharging these functions, irrespective of the designation, irrespective of the salary he draws, irrespective of the dress appearance or qualification, because in mostly ITS sector, we call them white collar employees. They don't come under the blue collar or the workmen, white collar or the, now white collar and blue collar are the management terms, but they are not the legal. They're not. So the laws are applicable, and in IT also, ITS also, workman category is there. According to me, IT use different nomenclatures for the position. Certain companies call them consultant, software engineer, junior software engineer, developer, junior developer, associate, or junior analyst, or so on and so forth. All these people come under the category of workman definition. Only the team lead onwards who enters workman is excluded from the definition of work.
Okay, sir. In this case, one question that the employees in the ITS and who are so-called white-collar workers, they all have an agreement, service agreements or maybe the employment agreements and all. So, how is that employment agreement versus the definition under a workman? Both are going to kind of exist together.
Yes. As regards the workman, who come under the definition of workman, they are governed under the labor laws. And the employees who doesn't fall under the definition of workman, also certain of the labor laws are applicable, not all the labor laws. Wherever the law is applicable, the provisions of law supersede the employment contract. Employment contract doesn't supersede the provision of law. So they are the non-workman category is concerned. The terms and conditions in respect of selection, separation, recruitment, retrenchment, or whatever it is, purely governed as per the terms and conditions of their employment contract with the employer when it comes to the supervisory and managerial position. When it comes to the workman position, their service conditions are governed either under the Industrial Dispute Act or under the Shops and Commercial Establishment Act. That has to be followed. Your voice is not audible.
I put it on mute, not to get the disturbance. Okay, so one of the questions are, there are some companies who actually have paid the March month salaries, and they're now looking at, how do they really deal with, because already March, is over, and some of them were able to pay full salary, sir, and some of them were not able to discharge full salary. So some of them paid, part of it because, their revenues have not realized. So in such cases, is suppose one question, sir, is there is a possibility that if they want to pay partly from this month and also let's say April, May, over the next 3-4 months, because there is no flow of money, and can that be paid at a later point of time based on when the business improves?
No, actually the provisions of the law doesn't permit deferment of payment. The government is different. They have, by virtue of the powers conferred upon them, they have given order. But when it comes to the private sector, they are not permitted to defer. However, they can arrive at an agreement with the workman or the employees that owing to these reasons, the 50% payment is now being paid. The remaining 50% shall be paid on or before certain date or installed. If the workman or the employee gives consent, well.
Okay, so I think it is more a question of how the employee comes together.
Yeah, otherwise, as per the provisions of the Act, the employer has to pay before 5th, 7th, and 10th, because Shops Act idea, this Payment of Wages Act differs. So he has to pay the previous month's salary has to be paid in the succeeding month on or before 7th. Otherwise, the full payment has to be made.
Okay, sir, I have one more question, because I found that there is a set of agreement. There are some people who have agreed that, saying that employees understood that there is no business from the day one of the closure, lockdown, or whatever. So they agreed with the employer that, okay, it's okay, you don't pay the salaries for the next 2 months, but once it's done, probably you will pay that back once we start the business. In such cases, what kind of now it is both an agreement together, but how do they need to make sure that that is properly legal or documented? Is it required or not required, sir?
Strictly speaking, any agreement or contract in violation of provision of law is a wide definition. If it is in consonance with the provision of law, it is valid.
Okay.
And the law says the employer has to pay 7th or 10th or 5th, as the case may be, depending on the act. So it cannot be said it can 100% be enforced. However, if the employee himself gives option, there won't be any his consent, there won't be any litigation. So it can be mutual understanding going to the circumstances. It is a win-win situation where they accommodate the employer, and accommodating the employer is nothing but saving their own employer.
Absolutely, absolutely. Sir, one more question, that there are cases where they reported that they could not pay the full salary. So they're paying a part of the salary, and the rest of the part of the money they wanted to convert into the equity. This is something that a startup has actually was thinking. And then employees also are agreement that since they cannot actually do the cash flow after some time, this cash flow will convert into an equity of the organization, which is a very good sign. But is it okay from the law? Again, even though both of them agreed, but is it okay to do it? And is it a good? I mean, like from a practice side of it, at least we see from a management, it is very good, because you're also having the involvement of people as a shareholders, more than anything else. But how does the law looks at? Because this is what I want to convey to some of them who actually have done it, or maybe who have in the process of doing it.
This implies participation in management.
Yeah, exactly. The ownership, I mean, instead of a salary, they're getting an ownership. That's how it is construed.
Yeah, ownership. It is okay, but the thing is that first the employee has legally to make it perfect legal. The employer has to first make the payment, and the employer has to again purchase the stocks or the shares.
Okay.
And the cash transactions through the bank has to take place. So that is a perfect. No need to have any agreement separate.
Okay, sir. One more question related to that is that there are a lot of incentives and special allowances, incentive. There are so many things that are being given by the employers, and due to this whole issue, they're not able to pay anyway the salary and also the running of the thing. But if they take care of salaries, and what will be the provision for those incentives, or whatever the okay, bonus, I'll keep it separately. There's a separate question. But from an incentive point of view, sales incentive, or annual incentives or something, if they actually have to stop, or if they don't give it, what is the kind of an implication that they have, because the business is not running?
It is of twofold. The first one is that incentive for the future payments, because the results is yet to be achieved and the incentive is yet to be. Incentive because for the results which are already achieved.
Okay.
March, almost 22nd March, the companies are functioning as usual.
Yeah.
So whatever the targets that were there in the previous financial year, they have achieved. But the achieved thing, it is actually accrued to their account, rather to say, by virtue of performance. The incentive what they got to get it, they are entitled for it. So that cannot be deferred. That cannot be denied first. If it can be deferred, it can be deferred with a mutual understanding. Because it is for the service what he has done, the incentive is there.
Already rendered. Already
rendered. For the future, they can enter into an agreement that they can dispense with these incentives, only salary part will be taken care of. They have to enter into employee consent is required for that.
So one more thing, we have noticed that there are a lot of companies who already said there are no more increments in the future. Okay, does it is it management side it's right, or is it legally does it has any impact, or that employers must be aware of? If if they declare today that no more increments for this year, because we see there is going to be a danger for the business as such.
There are ways and means to arrive at a win-win mode of theory. Rather to say that one thing is that the incentive or the increment is a reward for performance.
Okay.
It cannot be claimed as a matter of right. It is always subject to performance of employee, also paying capacity of the employer.
Okay.
Paying capacity of the employer.
Okay.
So future increments, whether to give or not to give, or whether the employees get demotivated or demoralized by not giving, like the company got constraints the employee. So how to keep up the moral of the employees? The HR has to come forward with that. And there are certain companies, because instead of, okay, we will discuss it a later part, how to deal with the surplus employment. We will discuss it. I have certain views of mine in a win-win situation, how to deal with such things.
Sure, sir. I'll come to that.
Yeah, incentives and increments can be, future increments and incentives can be deferred, or can be said that for this particular year, there will not be any increments. Because we are not committed that every year you will be giving it.
Okay, okay, sir. And one more thing, how do you treat the contract workers, sir, at this time? Because there are manufacturing companies who have contract workers also, on a third party or whatever. So how's the treatment in terms of, because now they can't really pay because there's no operations or whatever. So what is the obligation of employer in terms of contract workers that they have? Can they terminate them, the contract, or what kind of implications that you see?
Yeah, the thing is that as regards the payment of wages, for the month of March, it is clear, as per the government directions, contract labor to be paid during the lockdown period. And the contractor will pay only when the principal employer makes the payment, otherwise he will not be. Under the provisions of the Contract Labor Act, principal employer is jointly and severally liable only for the payment of wages. That is one aspect.
Okay.
As regards to April, the clarity is yet to come. Let us see. And the other thing is that retrenching the contract labor or terminating the contract labor. The principal employer cannot terminate the contract labor because there is no employer and workman relationship between the principal employer and the contractor. It is between the contractor and the contract worker.
That's right. That's right. And so what is the provision of a contractor? Because now he has a direct employees on his roles, and then he needs to, because if the principal employer is not paying, then he may not, he may be in an incapacitance to pay. So in such cases, can he, again, all these employment rules apply that we are discussing to him in terms of deferment and all that?
When it comes to the manpower supplying companies, wherever they are vendors or whatever, whoever they may be, when the principal employer stops the business, terminates the contract owing to the business circumstances, and what to do with his employees for whom he has recruited his employees to supply that labor to a third party. The contract, so their services can be retrenched post-lockdown, not during the lockdown period.
Okay.
Post-lockdown. But
so I think what you're saying is everything is locked now.
So everything is locked, and that is few days away. And post-lockdown, the services can be retrenched. But there is a procedure under the Contract Labor Act for retrenchment.
Okay, sir. And also, you also said earlier that on the Payment of Wages Act, there's a minimum wage structures, right? So they need to make sure that to that extent that the payment must be made, right?
Yes, it can't be reduced less than the minimum wage. The employer who can't afford to pay the minimum wage can't afford to be in the business. That is what the Supreme Court said. In unequivocal terms.
Yeah, but maybe I think all these situations nobody would have imagined, because we know that there is a gray area, of survival, becoming, and the country's survival itself is at question. So employers are very small portion.
If the companies, industries do well, there will be a good GPA. If the GPA, as the government in general, would be doing well. If there is no proper.
Okay. Sir, one more thing. One question, I think. So I'm actually, what are the questions that have come in? What are the situations that our friends are facing? I'm trying to put those into perspective. So one company, they have lots of orders, and they have large number of people, and they had to reduce, because of the fact that they cannot really, pay anymore. So if half of the workforce that he is actually kind of reducing, the way that people have come up is, one of the most important thing is medical insurance, especially the ITES, their salaries are not as per ESIC, they're not covered, but their medical insurance is given. So if they have come to a conclusion saying that, okay, over the next 5 months, maybe 50% of the salary or 30% of the salary, of course, which is more than minimum wage in any case, this thing, but they would like to continue that up to five months, they give a notice period, 5 months, and pay all that 30 or 40% or whatever, but make sure that because the medical insurance is covered. See, what happens is, if they go out, they don't get a medical insurance directly, because this comes in as a group medical insurance. So is that a good practice, sir? From a legal point of view, will there be any issue to you foresee?
Because when it's a group medical insurance policy, it is a comprehensive policy, and you have to look into the terms and conditions of the insurance policy. Whether the moment the employee is out of the employment, whether such employee who is out of the employment after cessation of employment can avail still the benefit of the medical benefit.
So they're not going to stop this thing, sir. They'll actually contribute after 5 months or 6 months. So that means every month they will contribute to the medical insurance, and then it is an agreement between the employer and the employee. So in that case,
the insurance company also doesn't object to it. That can be extended even after cessation or for termination or retrenchment also. That until this policy period is over, the employer keeps contributing to it and maintain.
Okay, sir. Okay, sir. Now I move on to a bit on the layoff. Now that it's an extension to what we are talking. So, is there an option to retrench or terminate? I mean, can you give some definition of a layoff or retrenchment or a termination? This is very important, because people may use the words as it comes to their mind, because what is their top of the mind. But I think from a legal standpoint, I think we need to know the difference between these, sir.
Yeah, that's good, Mr. R. And I quite often, because I addressed a number of sessions and I've been seeing for the last 33 years being in this line. And as far as ITES is concerned, since 2000, I've been seeing layoff means for the ITES industries, it is only the permanent layoff retrenchment. They mean that.
Okay.
They mean that. When it comes to the manufacturing sector, the layoff means it is temporary laying off the workmen because the employer is not able to give work to the workers. Maybe for a period of 1 month, 45 days, 15 days. So the perception of the layoff for ITIT is different, and the perception of layoff for the manufacturing are different.
Sure.
But forget about their individual perception.
Yeah.
Let us come to the legality.
Legal, yeah, that's very important.
Let us come to the legality. Layoff is only where the employer is not able to provide employment temporarily, then the layoff is used. Where the employer wants to permanently want to dispense with the services of an employee, then it is retrenchment, it is not layoff.
Okay.
That is the difference between retrenchment and layoff. And there is also a termination.
Yeah.
Termination is that, suppose as per the terms of contract, if an employee is employed for a fixed period.
Okay.
So upon expiry of the contract, if he is terminated, that doesn't amount to retrenchment as per the provisions of IDI. Then the dismissal means where the employee commits misconduct following the procedure and all, then that is a dismissal.
Sure. Sir, also, I think there's a lot of, see, when the business is shining, when the business is as usual normal, nobody really bothers about some of the non-performers. Okay. Now, suddenly, you see that these non-performers are the, glaringly visible because of the cost that they are adding, and at the same time, no value of, business that they're coming in. So, is there any provisions, if they want to deal with in terms of termination of such non-performers during this time? What are the obligations of employers, and how do they deal with it?
Non-performance is also a misconduct.
Okay. Okay.
On any misconduct, if the employer wants to terminate the services, when it comes to the employees who come under the definition of workmen, they got to follow the procedure as has been initiated under the Shops and Establishment Act and IDI. They cannot straight away terminate them that your performance is not poor, therefore you need not come from tomorrow. When it comes to the non-workman category, supervisor and managerial services, they can be done as per the terms of contract. And IT, ITES industries where there is a non-performance, they put them under the PIP, performance improvement plan, give one or two opportunities. If they don't improve by way of counseling and all, they can directly terminate when it comes to the non-workman category. When it comes to the workman category, they have to follow the procedure laid down under the idea.
Okay. Yeah, I think it's very important, and that's the state of business is they're not really aware of what is going to happen in April. It's going to be really suspense.
Yes. There are other measures, Mr. Jr. Sorry for the interruption.
Yeah.
One thing is that instead of terminating the employees, is saying that you have become excess and I don't have work. Employees can be persuaded with a mutual consent. They can apply for leave, stay at home. And the employer and employee can arrive at an agreement that during the leave period, for certain period, 50% of wages can be paid, and for certain period, there can't be any wages. Employee also can try his job elsewhere. Rather, totally being out of employment, trying for the job is different.
Yeah.
And while continuing in employment, trying for the job is a bit easy. Another thing is that if he's totally out of the job, he may be in the distress, he may get demoralized. He may not be able to face and get the job. So to win as a win-win situation, it can be worked out. Another thing is that there is another procedure long back in the recession. Some companies, when some 10 years ago the recession came, I did suggest some companies did follow, especially in the ITES industries, where they can say that option is given for the employees to work for 4 hours or 8 hours or 6 hours.
Okay, so reduced time that they can actually do.
No, employee can opt.
Oh, okay.
If he works for 50% of the time of the day, he will get 60% wages.
Okay.
He gives his consent. If he works for 60%, he will get 70% wages.
Okay.
Not full wages. So employee can be given an option so that he would be able to employ more.
That's right.
And the productivity is also more.
Yeah.
This is another method that can be adopted.
I think it's a very good suggestion. I'm sure.
Besides law, we also should have some human touch. Being human is more important than to be the human being.
That's right. I think all the human principles need to be adopted so that nobody is, pushed to corners, because I think that is what is
instead
important.
of saying that I have now 60 people, I want only 20, you go out. If they are really, it is on account of non-performance, I quite agree. If they are really talented, owing to the circumstances, throwing completely somebody out, you can say you arrive at a consensus and you can share the work available.
Okay. So there is also a question people ask that whether, even employees have actually asked us that, can I go on a, sabbatical at this time? Can I ask my employer?
Certainly. It would be a win-win situation for the employer and as well as the employee also.
Okay.
For the employer and employer. Education institutions are also might be eagerly
looking for such people. Yes. Sure, sir. Sir, like any of these consents doesn't happen or anything, can the EasyTech, suppose if that employer who's not able to provide certain job, work from home or whatever in such cases, can the employer enforce that the leave can be taken? Because they may be having a lot of accumulation. Some companies have longer accumulation, some companies have shorter. But if somebody has a longer accumulation, can they ask them to go on longer leave as from the employer side?
Yes, it's a very important question, Mr. GR, because many people are thinking and trying to. But let me say, as per law, availing leave or non-availing leave is the option and right of the employee.
Okay.
Sanctioning of leave, non-sanctioning of leave is the prerogative of the employer.
Okay.
So, therefore, employee cannot be asked, you avail the leave. It is the choice of the employee. Employee on his own asks to go on leave, no problem. It is employer can sanction it as well. But he cannot be forced to avail the leave, unavailed leave, which is standing to the greater effect.
So I think I also see that there is a lot of awareness for employees and also employers because of the situation is worldwide. Now earlier the situation used to be localized, hence there used to be fights that, okay, this is my right, and somebody says I can't really survive, so I have to take this decision and all that. But now I think there is a lot of cohesiveness in terms of understanding has increased. That's what I kind of foresee, that employees are also don't want to drag it to a level where it breaks it and then nobody gets benefited, right? Typically, if it gets into legal tangles, I'm sure it takes, their whole lifespan, and nobody knows.
Anyway, as a lawyer, I always suggest litigation shouldn't be preferred. It is only at the last resort, but not at the first resort, because mitigation of litigation is always best, because litigation is a speculation without knowing the destination. So,
so this is a very, very much required that people must understand.
Both employer and employee, they got to think about it legally. About
that's right. That's right.
It is not advisable for either of the parties.
Yes, that's right. Yeah. Excellent. Okay, so there is one more question, sir. In terms of so I think basically people are trying to find different ways of actually dealing with this situation. Nobody knows, but nobody knows what is the legal implication. That's how it is happening. If work from home is a new concept, as per, I don't know, is it so currently you are only defining that if he is working from home, that means that he's on the job. That's how we are treating. But is there a provisions in the law anywhere that there is something called a work from home, which is like you're working away from where your factory or a location or a office is there? What is there any provision, sir, actually? Because the people are confused with that.
I will tell you, the work from home concept is not the new concept. It is the ages concept.
Okay.
Even for example, if you look into it in our area, BD manufacturers, BD rollers.
Mm-hmm.
More than 100 years they have been doing it. They collect the BD leaves, roll the BDs and give it.
Right.
From home. Either it may be piece rate or whatever, maybe they think.
Correct.
So sophisticated way it came when the IT.
Okay. But there are a lot of laws related to that, right? In terms of the
laws related to it, and many case laws also to be developed. Whether the employee works from home or works in the office, it is treated as in the course of employment. Okay. Suppose in the event if any accident occurs or anything occurs, that has to be treated that it is in the course of employment. An employee is entitled for the compensation, and other terms and conditions mutually can be agreed when it is working from home and other things. Okay. They can renegotiate and enter into a settlement as part of the austerity measure, because the employer can save the transportation costs. Employer can save the network costs. Instead of that, a total package for the networking and this internet can be given, because the server also would be having so many advantages for costing cutting methods. Via media win-win they can have.
Sure. So there is some more questions, which is related to if employer is providing an opportunity to work from home, but the employee is not able to work because for whatever the reason, because he's not comfortable or she's not comfortable, or it doesn't allow, or whatever the reasons, if they don't want to work, while the employer is willing to put them on the job at home. So in such cases, are they liable to pay the salary, sir, in such cases?
Wherever the opportunity to work is given and the employee denies to work, is not entitled for the wages, it is treated as another example.
Okay. So I think that I understood. Okay. I think you also mentioned earlier that work for wages, wages for the work.
Okay.
If you are not willing to work, then
no work, no pay.
Only no work, no pay. Yeah, I think you used the right word.
Pay for the work.
Pay for the work. Okay.
Pay for the work, and not only pay for the work. Pay also should be for the performance, but not for the mere presence without performance.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. That's right.
Ultimately, the productivity counts.
Yes, and the business has to survive, and the revenue has to generate.
The business has to survive.
Right. So one question, sir, in terms of leave without pay, is something that is been going around in the circles. So if an employee is not, let's say, suppose if an employee can work, but in such cases, if the employer says that no, you go on, leave without pay, because I can't provide any, let's say, work from home, or it is not possible for me or whatever. In such case, is that a okay thing to do a leave without pay for the duration of because they can't perform to that?
No, until unless the leave, employer cannot force the employee to avail the leave.
Okay.
Availing and that we have already covered. Availing and non-availing leave is the option of the employee.
Okay.
He cannot force.
Okay.
If
Okay.
he feels that the employee there is a insubordination or a disobedience or refusal to work, it again is a misconduct. The disciplinary action has to be taken as per law. And he cannot say you continue on leave until further, like Parliament and Assembly adjourn sign tie. It can't be.
Okay. Okay. But also, what about I mean, because these are the general questions. I'm sure it relates to something that we spoke about, but I'm very specifying because it need to be highlighted. What about if he says that, okay, now that there is all lockdown, there is no business happening and all. So if the employer says, okay, just go back and then come back when the work starts, what is the obligation that you see in such case?
It is nothing but a oral termination. Oral termination is bad in law. It amounts to retrenchment.
Okay.
And if it is challenged, the case against the employer cannot.
Okay. Excellent, sir.
Not a valid termination.
Okay. Thank you, sir. And also, how about these? Because if you're paying some part of the salaries to employees right now, and then what are the obligations on the PF and ESIC and other things, sir, in terms of because I heard that there are some PF officers who started calling after March to some employers saying that, have you paid the salaries? Please deposit, irrespective of whether you paid salaries or not, deposit your PF amounts to the authority. What are the provisions there?
Recently, there is a clarification given. They have granted certain time for payment of the contribution for 1 or 2 months time.
3 months, May or something, which
3 months time they have given.
Okay, so that means, but
there will not be any damages under Section 14B of the PF Act. There won't be any penal interest either under the ESI Act or under because the department itself has permitted for the payment, delayed payment.
Sir, how about ESIC? Because if the ESIC is not paid, let's say this month, for whatever the reasons, they're still covered under the ESIC as of now. Is that the provision?
Yeah. They are covered under the just because like a general insurance policy and other things, non-payment of the premium won't entitle the beneficiary to avail the benefit. But under the ESI, non-payment of the premium of the employer doesn't curtail the right of the employee to undergo the treatment because the department got every right to prosecute the payment and to recover it. So tomorrow, if it is recovered, they cannot get back the health of the employee.
Okay. Sir, I think we have kind of covered maximum numbers in different forms right now. So one thing, sir, if now the extension of lockdown has happened and it's going to be even much more painful, and we see that there are no relief packages like how the other countries are dealing with. We know that UK and Australia and the rest of the countries, they are actually giving some kind of a wages so that the unemployment doesn't increase and all that stuff. So do you see that there is something that could be coming up from the government, or is it really possible for our country? What do you think? This is not illegal, but it would definitely...
Anything if I express it is speculative and it is not exact, or it can't be an imperative, it is only a speculative. It is advisable to discuss on such things. Government is also planning, it seems, until unless anything that comes finally out and takes into the shape of a government order and rule, nothing can be. It is all grape point talk as the management terms.
And also, I think, see, what we have seen is that there is a moratorium on some of the loans that the employers have been taken, but unfortunately some of them are really not getting even the loans or an extension, because if their money is stuck, they want to take little of loan, but I think bank seems to be also
because the working capital loans also they would be taking in the event if there is any default of payment, they will not be giving it, or enhancement depending on the previous financial year profits or the balance sheet. The enhancement of working capital also will be given. now we have yet to see because we are at the infancy period only of the
Okay.
lockdown and
Okay.
what would come out and all, and post lockdown and all, the government also may think in such event they may be giving certain restrictions to the RBI. RBI in turn would be giving to the other bankers as well in respect of the payment or of the raising of the working capital limits or whatever it is. We have to wait and see.
Okay. Okay. So thank you so much, sir. I think it's been a very great value. Friends, I know that you may have a different questions the way that you frame, but we try to really cover most of the aspect, and every one of their questions can be actually, if you search through this video, probably they will be able to get some answers. But just in case if you don't get your answers or something, you can always write to us at HUSYS. We will try to take sir's permission to have a clarification and get back to you. And thank you very much, sir. Thank you so much.
Thank you
for your time.
One more issue that what we have discussed it today, I tell friends it is only illustrative but not exhaustive.
Yes, exactly. That's absolutely. I think it's only a cursor point because I think there's a lot of big subject that we're dealing with.
And it is the beginning. We can have many more such things.
Yeah. Thank you so much, sir.
Welcome.
Thank you so much. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Bye.
Yeah. Bye-bye.
Signing off.